Rick Ross just played Big Meech like a pawn in what's now being called a $120 million scam. And 50 Cent's out here laughing his head off. But here's the craziest part. Everybody in the street saw this coming months ago. Everybody except Meech himself. Ross slid in smooth, flashing promises of movie deals, TV shows, and a whole Hollywood empire. He sold the dream like only a hustler could. But once the lights went off and the cameras stopped rolling, Ross disappeared, leaving Big Meech and Lil Meech out in the cold, watching the man who used their name still living in mansions like nothing happened. Street insiders are saying this wasn't just business. This was a setup disguised as an opportunity. When Big Meech walked out of prison back in October, fans were hyped for the real comeback. The boss returning to rebuild his empire the legit way.
Ricky Rose, the time has come. Meech on. February 13th, get your tickets right now, it's going down. We know Florida gonna be there, Miami gonna be there. The legend himself gonna be in the building, making history. Meech, who else coming?
The whole nation, Detroit, St. Louis, California, everybody. Atlanta, Georgia, ATL, stand up.
Woo. We gonna make history, get your tickets.
But then, out of nowhere, here comes Rick Ross, talking billions, showing contracts, teasing this so-called $120 million film deal that was supposed to change everything. On paper, it looked like Meech was finally about to cash in on his own legend, to eat off the name he built brick by brick.
You want to do a BMF film because you've been entertained by a lackluster, small budget series. Now it's time to do a big budget film. Which director? Shout out to my homie, F. Gary Gray, Antoine Foucault, what's up? Tarantino, it's a lot of legends. This is gonna be big, I can feel it. I'm just talking,
But once the smoke cleared, the truth hit harder than anyone expected. Nothing ever came through. The so-called empire Rick Ross promised, straight smoke and mirrors, no projects, no payments, no follow-through. Ross used the Meech legacy like a stage prop, flexing the BMF name every time he wanted to throw shade at 50 Cent. What was supposed to be business turned into a weapon in his petty rivalry. And the streets caught on quick. Nobody was fooled. From the jump, folks called it what it was, clout chasing, plain and simple, because everyone already knew who'd really been putting in the work, 50 Cent. 50 was the one funding the BMF series, paying for Lil Meech's acting classes, and opening real Hollywood doors. While Ross was busy taking photos in fake boss mode, 50 was out here building a brand, turning Lil Meech into a legit star. Meanwhile, Ross brought nothing but noise, headlines, hype, and empty promises. He boosted his own image off another man's name. But the wild part, Meech still sided with Ross, ignoring the only man who actually kept his legacy alive. That move sparked real tension behind the scenes. Even Tony Yayo said it straight. 50's been there since day one. No sugarcoating, no gimmicks. Now word on the block is, Meech is feeling the heat. Money's drying up, frustration's building, and the truth is closing in fast. Rick Ross never linked up out of loyalty. This was never about brotherhood. He only came around to take shots at 50 Cent and stir the fire. But the result? Meech stopped looking like a boss and started looking like a pawn in another man's feud. That's when 50 decided enough was enough. The silence ended, and he came back swinging. The 50 Cent way. He hit the internet with one of his classic troll plays claiming Rick Ross asked Lil Meech for Big Meech's home address just so he could send some Wingstop wings. The line was funny, but the meaning behind it was cold. 50 was sending a message, Ross ain't feeding the Meech legacy nothing real, just scraps. Fake loyalty dressed up as friendship.
Who own your masters? Who own your masters? I buy your masters. You better shut up. I will buy your master.
You know, but when you take Little Meech and you put him in acting school, you know, you take him from Detroit. I remember him rapping when he was rapping and nobody was helping him from what I seen, because I remember when Lil Meech was rapping.
That joke hit like a punch because it had truth written all over it. And just when fans thought it was over, 50 took it to another level. He started dropping bombshells, claiming Lil Meech had been struggling behind the scenes. 50 said he personally had to step in, sending Meech to rehab after showing up to set drunk, throwing up during weapons training, and losing focus while filming. Then came the wildest part, the Whippet story. Allegedly, canisters of nitrous oxide found in Meech's truck, linked to reckless behavior that had producers ready to pull the plug. 50 Cent joked that he had to Google what Whippets even were, laughing at the madness while still driving his point home. He made it clear, he was the grown man in the room.
Is there anything about Ross and his career that you have any respect for?
No. No, there's nothing there. There's nothing there. I never wanted to work with him.
keeping the whole production alive while everyone else spiraled. Through it all, 50 positioned himself as the protector, the one holding Lil Meech's career together, while Ross and even Big Meech, in his eyes, were playing reckless with reputation and reality. But even after all that, Lil Meech still chose to ride with Ross, popping bottles with him in clubs, smiling for the cameras, like nothing ever happened. Now the streets are clowning what's left of the once legendary BMF image. That so-called alliance with Rick Ross, built on ego and empty talk, collapsed faster than anyone expected. And that's when power star Michael Rainey Jr. jumped into the mix. He didn't sugarcoat a thing. He said straight up he didn't feel sorry for either Lil Meech or Big Meech because grown men should have seen this coming. That clip went viral instantly, spreading across every social platform. And when 50 Cent saw it, he doubled down hard. No hesitation. He backed Rainey 100%, saying the Meech camp looked weak, manipulated, and blind to the truth. 50 didn't backtrack. He stamped it, framed the whole thing as another example of misplaced loyalty and bad judgment. And honestly, he's not wrong, because Rick Ross leaving people stranded ain't exactly a new plot twist. Allegedly, he's done this before. Sources claim Ross once left his own entourage behind in Canada during a scuffle, let them get jumped while he slipped away, only to show up later claiming it was a test of strength.
Guy, I don't think there's a bad guy.
No, yes it is. That Vlad, let's talk about it.
I think Meech is the one that made a mistake.
No,
No? You think 50?
no,
Lil Meech.
no.
Who am I forgetting now?
Rick Ross knew perfectly damn well what he was doing and what that would lead to. And if he was a real friend to Meech, unless he was looking to get 50 out the way, he would have dealt with Meech in the shadows because he knows me and this dude who is gonna react if he sees me dealing with this dude that he has business with. And there was a lot of business left to be done, right? Rick Ross, bro, could have done whatever he was gonna do in the shadows if he really honored and respected Meech. Trust me, Meech wished none of this was going.
Cold-hearted, calculated, and completely on brand for the image Ross has built for years. That right there is Ross's trademark move, according to industry insiders. Even Whack 100 jumped in, calling Ross the real villain behind the curtain. He said straight up, Ross was never a true ally to Big Meech. He was a manipulator, using the Meech name as a pawn in his ongoing war with 50 Cent. And Whack didn't bite his tongue. He said if Ross really cared about building something solid, he would have moved in silence, kept it business, kept it private, built something real behind the scenes, not turned it into a PR stunt for clicks and clout. But instead, Ross made everything about himself. The deals, the headlines, the attention. He paraded the Meech name around like a trophy, using the connection to elevate his own image. And that told the story right there. Ross wasn't in it for Big Meech. Ross was in it for Ross. He knew exactly what he was doing, gassing Meech up with dreams of $120 million deals, movie empires, and generational wealth. But the only empire that actually grew was Ross's own fame. Behind the scenes, Ross was allegedly turning Big Meech against 50 Cent, the same man who literally saved Lil Meech's career, the same man who gave him a platform and made him a star. And when the smoke cleared, there was nothing left. No projects, no payments, just broken promises and silence. Ross cut communication, ghosted the Meech family completely, and vanished right when the hype started dying down. That's when the truth finally hit. Ross only ever pushes what fills his own pockets. And once Meech stopped being profitable, he got left behind.
Now,
A guy, I don't think there's a bad guy.
no, yes it is. That Vlad, let's talk about it.
I think Meech is the one that made a mistake.
No,
No? You think 50?
no,
Lil Meech.
no.
Who am I forgetting now?
Rick Ross knew perfectly damn well what he was doing and what that would lead to. And if he was a real friend to Meech.
Now rumors are spreading that Ross might have even been behind the sudden cancellation of Lil Meech's next project, pulling strings to make sure the spotlight stayed exactly where he wanted it, on himself. That so-called welcome home benefit event was supposed to be Meech's big comeback, a night to celebrate his return and rewrite the story. Fans thought 50 Cent had sabotaged it behind the scenes, but insiders say the truth was way darker. It wasn't 50, it was Rick Ross. According to those close to the situation, Ross didn't want Meech to rise again. He didn't want a strong comeback or for Meech to reclaim his power. He wanted him sidelined, sitting quiet, watching from the background, while Ross played hero online, soaking up all the spotlight. And that, people say, was the ultimate betrayal. A calculated move to trade another man's legacy for clout. Instead of rewriting his legend, Meech walked right into the trap the moment the streets stopped rocking with him. Things only got worse when Meech tried to clap back, calling 50 Cent an internet gangster, accusing him of hiding behind a phone and trolling for fame. But nobody bought it. The streets saw right through it. Pure damage control. By then, the memes had already taken over. The jokes, the clowning, the headlines painting Meech as outplayed and outmaneuvered. And when you really dig into Ross's history, that's when the pattern becomes clear. A long trail of alliances built on self-interest and partnerships that always end the same way: chaos, confusion, and somebody else holding the short end of the deal. Because when it comes to Ross, loyalty's never the goal. It's always leverage. From Maybach Music's early rise to his messy fallouts with former allies, Rick Ross has always shown one thing: a ruthless instinct for turning friendships into headlines. Look at his own camp. Whale, Meek Mill, Gunplay, all once loyal soldiers under the MMG banner. But over time, each started speaking out, complaining about contracts gone missing, money that never showed up, and promises that evaporated the second the cameras turned off. Ross always looks supportive in public, all smiles and boss talk. But behind the scenes, insiders tell a different story. One built on control, ego, and manipulation. Even Meek Mill, once his right-hand man, quietly distanced himself after realizing the empire wasn't built for everyone to win. It was built for Ross to stay on top. And now, that same formula seems to be repeating, this time with Big Meech. The so-called $120 million project that Ross hyped up turned out to be another illusion, a smoke and mirrors hustle that left the Meech family empty-handed while Ross walked away with another boost of fame. Because let's be real, every time Ross's name starts fading from the spotlight, he always finds someone new to latch onto, someone who still holds weight in the streets until the story serves him and then it's over. But this time, he picked the wrong family to play with, because Lil Meech isn't staying silent anymore. Meanwhile, 50 Cent flipped the whole game on its head, turning real-life chaos into billion-dollar television moments. That's the difference. While Rick Ross keeps chasing validation through controversy, 50's out here building empires through strategy. The streets see it, the fans see it, even industry insiders are starting to admit it. Ross might be playing checkers, while 50's been playing chess this entire time. And now the question everyone's asking is simple: how many more people will Ross pull into his orbit before they realize the game? Because if history's shown us anything, it's this: anyone who stands next to Ross eventually learns the same hard lesson. Loyalty is temporary, but clout is forever. The pattern's undeniable. Rick Ross's entire playbook runs on borrowed legacies. The BMF track had Big Meech believing Ross stood beside him like family. But what if that loyalty was never real? What if it was just another setup, designed to make Ross look like the hero while cashing in on someone else's story? When you really think about it, it fits perfectly. Ross has built his entire career off names and narratives that were never his. It's all documented. His whole persona, the boss, came straight from the real Rick Ross, the street legend who was sitting behind bars while this Ross borrowed his name, image, and legacy to build a multi-million-dollar brand. And when the real Rick Ross got out, he confronted him, took him to court, tried to reclaim what was his. But the damage was already done, and the fake Rick Ross walked away richer than ever. So maybe this was never about honoring BMF at all. Maybe it was about becoming BMF in the eyes of the culture. Rick Ross didn't flinch. He doubled down, profiting even harder off the myth he built. Then he pulled the same move again with Larry Hoover, using the name of another incarcerated legend, dropping it in songs, interviews, and visuals, stacking clout off someone else's reputation. Same play, different icon. And now with Big Meech, it's looking like history is repeating itself. Another borrowed name, another manipulated legacy, another king left in the shadows while Ross shines under borrowed light. At this point, the pattern's too clear to ignore. Ross has been eating off other people's stories for years, turning real pain into profit. And every time the smoke clears, he's the only one walking away with the wins. Truth is, 50 Cent called it early. He said from day one that Ross never earned respect as a man, only as a marketer. And the internet, they didn't hold back either. One viral comment read, "Rick Ross is a fraud, period." Another said, "Ross ruined the whole legacy just to chase clout." The people have spoken, but the bigger question remains: is Rick Ross just playing the game, or did he really leave Big Meech high and dry? Was Meech's loyalty misplaced, or was he just outplayed in a much bigger hustle? Let me know what you think down below. Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss the next deep dive, because this story is far from over. Catch you in the next one.